She used to light up when your name appeared on her phone. Now she reads your messages and responds hours later with one-word answers. You think the solution is more attention. She used to light up when your name appeared on her phone. Now she reads your messages and responds hours later with one-word answers. You think the solution is more attention, more texts, more calls, more proof that you care. But here's what no one tells you. You're making it worse. Every extra message you send is pushing her further away. Every desperate attempt to reconnect is confirming her worst suspicions about you. There's something powerful that happens when you stop giving her attention, something that rewrites the entire dynamic between you. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your instincts are betraying you and what really happens in her mind when you finally pull back. Here's the brutal truth about human psychology. We don't crave what we have. We crave what we feel slipping away. Your brain is wired to filter out what's constant and focus on what's uncertain. It's called habituation, and it's killing your chances with her. Think of attention like sunlight. A plant needs it to grow, but flood it with too much, and it burns. The right amount creates longing for more. When you're always available, always responding, always there, you become emotional wallpaper, background noise in her life. But when you step back, when your presence becomes unpredictable, her brain does something fascinating. It starts assigning value to what it can't control. It starts wondering, and wondering becomes wanting. This isn't manipulation. This is basic human psychology. The same reason limited edition items cost more. The same reason people want what they can't have. Scarcity creates value. And right now, you're the opposite of scarce. Let me show you exactly what happens in her mind when you finally pull back. There are 5 psychological shifts that occur, and each one brings her closer to wanting you again. First shift, her dopamine response resets. Attention loses all value when it's constant. You text her good morning every day. You like every photo she posts. You're the first to respond when she shares something. You think you're being caring, but her brain sees it differently. The human brain filters out predictable stimuli. When your attention becomes expected, it stops triggering dopamine, the chemical that makes her feel excited to hear from you. You've become emotional background music, always playing, rarely noticed. But the moment you stop, the moment your attention becomes unpredictable, her brain notices the change. The absence of what she took for granted suddenly becomes significant. She doesn't miss you because you stopped caring. She notices you because you stopped being predictable. Second shift, she projects value onto your silence. What she can't understand, she assigns importance to. When you were constantly available, she knew exactly where she stood with you. There was no mystery, no question marks. But now you're not texting back immediately. You're not always the first to reach out. Humans hate uncertainty. When we can't explain someone's behavior, we create stories to fill the gaps. And those stories, they're usually more flattering to the other person than reality. She starts wondering if you're busy with someone else, if you've got options she didn't know about, if there's a side of you she never saw. Your silence becomes a blank canvas for her imagination, and her imagination will paint you as more interesting than your constant availability ever could. Third shift, your absence triggers narrative building. The mind can't handle gaps in the story. When you were always present, there was no story to tell, just predictable responses and expected behavior. But absence creates gaps, and gaps demand explanations. She starts building narratives about what you're doing, who you're with, why you've changed. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. The brain remembers interrupted or incomplete tasks better than completed ones. Your sudden unavailability becomes an incomplete task in her mind. You don't win her back by giving her all the answers. You do it by becoming a question she needs to solve. Fourth shift, she repositions you as the one with options. Scarcity signals value. When you were always available, you communicated something without saying it. I have nothing better to do than focus on you. That might sound romantic, but it's not attractive. It signals low value, low options, low demand from others. But when you pull back, when your time becomes less available, she starts wondering, what's taking up your time? What's more important than her? In her mind, you transform from someone with limited options to someone who's choosing how to spend their valuable time. Busy people seem important. Available people seem desperate. Your absence doesn't communicate disinterest. It communicates that you have a life worth living. Fifth shift, she starts chasing the version of you she remembers. Memory enhances what's absent. Think about a song you loved but haven't heard in years. When it finally comes on, it hits different, stronger, more meaningful. That's what happens to her memory of you when you step back. Present experiences are judged against expectations. But memories? Memories get enhanced over time. She starts remembering the best moments you shared, the way you made her laugh, the way she felt when things were good between you. And because you're no longer constantly present to remind her of your flaws, those positive memories start to dominate her thoughts. She doesn't miss the man who always showed up. She starts craving the man who knew when to disappear. Now let me tell you what's really happening beneath the surface. When you were giving constant attention, you were operating from a place of fear. Fear of losing her, fear of not being enough, fear that if you weren't always present, she'd forget about you. But fear is repulsive. It communicates low value and insecurity. When you step back, you're not playing games. You're reclaiming your power. You're remembering that your attention is valuable and shouldn't be given freely to someone who doesn't appreciate it. This creates a shift in the entire dynamic. Instead of you chasing her approval, she starts seeking your attention. Instead of her taking you for granted, she starts wondering about your value. Instead of her seeing you as needy, she starts seeing you as mysterious. This doesn't happen overnight. Her brain needs time to process the change. At first, she might not even notice. You've been so consistently available that your absence feels like a temporary glitch. But as days pass without your usual attention, something shifts. The silence starts feeling intentional. The space starts feeling significant. And that's when the real psychological work begins in her mind. Let me be clear about what this isn't. This isn't about playing hard to get for the sake of games. This isn't about punishing her or making her suffer. This isn't about becoming cold or distant forever. This is about understanding that attraction requires tension, connection requires mystery, and value requires scarcity. When you're always available, you remove all of these elements from the equation. Here's the paradox that most men never understand. The more you chase, the less attractive you become. The more available you are, the less valuable you seem. The harder you try to keep her, the more reasons you give her to leave. But when you step back, when you reclaim your time and attention, you become interesting again, valuable again, worth pursuing again. You'll start noticing shifts in how she communicates with you. Her messages get longer, more thoughtful. She starts asking questions about what you've been up to. She might reach out first, something she hasn't done in months. She starts engaging with your social media more, watching your stories, commenting on your posts. Why? Because your attention has become scarce. And scarcity creates desire. But the real change isn't in her behavior. It's in your internal state. When you stop desperately seeking her validation, you start remembering your own worth. When you stop making her the center of your universe, you start building a life worth living. When you stop being afraid of losing her, you start becoming the kind of man she doesn't want to lose. This is the real power of stepping back. It's not about manipulating her emotions. It's about reclaiming your own. You don't win her back by flooding her with presents. You don't prove your worth by being constantly available. You don't show love by making yourself small. You win her back by letting absence build curiosity, by letting scarcity create value, by remembering that your attention is a gift, not a given. The woman who drifted away when you were always there, she starts coming back when you're not. The woman who took your attention for granted, she starts appreciating it when it's no longer guaranteed. The woman who seemed bored by your constant availability, she becomes fascinated by your unpredictable absence. And because here's the truth no one wants to admit. She doesn't miss the man who always showed up. She misses the one who mysteriously stopped. And until you understand that difference, you'll keep pushing away the very thing you're trying to hold on to. The choice is yours. Keep being predictable and watch her drift further away. Or step back, reclaim your power, and let her curiosity bring her back to you. But remember, this only works if you're stepping back to build something better, not just to play games. Because the most attractive thing about a man isn't his availability. It's knowing he has a life worth living, even without her in it.